A genie grants you 3 wishes, stating the 3 rules: no killing or raising from the dead, no making anyone fall in love, and no wishing for wishes. Were these rules always there, you ask? No, replies the genie. Then I wish to know the story behind these rules. Jael the Necromancer, Rule 1. The genie sighed and closed his eyes. At first I thought it irritation, but it was actually relief that washed over his face. He disappeared for a moment, then returned with an enormous book. It had a deep red leather binding that was tattered and scarred. The front had an emblem that I did not recognize, and writing in an ancient language. It has been many generations since the Book of Truths has been used. He waved his hand and a small table and 2 chairs appeared. He sat, opened the book, and gestured for me to sit across from him. First, the story of Jael. When the earth was young, genies and humans lived side by side along with various other species you have no doubt heard of. He paused for a moment, as if looking through an old photo album. What kind of species? I ask. Well, let's see here. He flips open the massive book on the table to the back and what looks like a kind of index. Yes, I'm sure you've heard of the giants and their later descendants, the Yetis. It looks up at me and I nod. Good, good. And of course, there were the fairies and various kinds of nymphs. You had your standard dwarfs and gnomes, as well as the creatures of the sea. Slowly I see a light come to his eyes as he rambles off creatures from a lost age. But you didn't ask for a history lesson, did you? Of course not, let's get to the story. He held out his hand and a pair of glasses appeared. He perched them on his nose and began to read. In the time of the New Earth, there lived a fair boy named Jael, son of Abner. When Jael was young, a group of centaurs raided their village and many of his siblings perished. Being the youngest child, his mother then kept Jael inside the home with her day and night for fear of losing him as well. This gave Jael an unusually pale complexion. The other children of the village often taunted him and teased him for his skin and lack of physical strength. And so it came to be that Jael had no real companions at all and yearned for someone to love him. The genies paused to look up at me to make sure I was still following along. Any questions so far? He asks. No, I think I've got it. I assure him. I can't help but to think he looks an awful lot like a grandfather when he would tell stories of his childhood. Right. Then let's keep going. He adjusts his glasses and finds his spot on the page. Jael's village was situated near a great sea where there lived many sea nymphs, mermaids, and sirens. After staying inside all day with his mother, he would slip out when his parents were sleeping and wander along the coast of the sea. After many months of nightly visits, he met a nymph named Liona and they fell in love. You see, he stopped reading again to explain. Nymphs also had very pale skin from spending most of their time under deeper waters. That is why she took to him so easily. Jael loved Liona because of her beauty and, of course, because she loved him back. I just nod and allow him to keep going, but I can't help but to smile at his enthusiasm. Their infatuation was too much for Jael to handle and he made the decision he would leave home to be with her forever. The problem was that Jael had nowhere to live and Liona could not spend all of her time above water. This reality tormented Jael to no end, and he would often spend his nights weeping on the rocks by the sea after Liona had gone. One night, while laying beneath the moon, he spotted a young genie named Purim. He called the genie over and explained his predicament. After hearing his testimony of love for Liona, Purim agreed to give Jael the ability to live beneath the water. Jael was filled with joy and rushed home to tell his parents the great news. When he arrived home, it was after dawn and his mother gathered him into her arms. "Where were you?" she cried. I was so worried. He reassured her that he was safe and had exciting news. "Mama," he said, "I have fallen in love. I am ready to move into my own right and become a man." She could see the joy exploding on his face and tried to feel the same. His mother, however, was not joyous at all. Her heart wrenched for her baby boy that had decided to leave. When her other children had died, it almost broke her. Jael was all that she had left and so, she devised a plan. The poor mom. I broke in. He didn't even prepare her. He just said, "Bye, I'm leaving you forever." The genie made a noise in his throat. Yes, well. May I continue? Oh, sorry. Yes, of course. As I was reading, the mother devised a plan. She had an old friend who practiced magic for hire. The mother paid the friend to find the nymph and have her killed before the day's end. Jael was set to leave the next day, and she wanted him to find Lyona dead on the rocks. Then, she hoped, he would run home to her for comfort. The witch was successful and Lyona washed up to the beach as planned. When Jael found her, however, he cried out in agony. He did not run home, as his mother had wanted. He stayed with Lyona's body for hours, until the sun blistered his skin and his lips dried up. Purim, recognizing Jael, came to see what his wailing was about. "What has happened?" Purim asked. "Where has the joy gone that once brightened your eyes?" Jael showed Purim Lyona's lifeless body lying on the rocks. Pleased, he begged the genie, "Please, you have to do something. You've helped me once before, and I can't live without her." Purim thought for a long time about Jael and what had happened. Finally, he came back to Jael's side. "I cannot raise the dead," he started. "It is unnatural magic and I will surely be banished for it. However, there may be a way." He paused and Jael leaped at the opportunity. Clutching the genie's feet, he begged. "Please, Purim, I will do whatever it takes, just bring her back to me." Purim gave in and granted Jael the ability to bring Lyona back. He told Jael that the power would only work once and the consequences could be life-altering. Jael did not care, he only wanted to feel love again. Before Purim could impress upon him the seriousness of necromancy, Jael was putting his hands on Lyona's shoulders, urging her awake. Her eyes flickered open and her hand came to his arm. He shouted with joy and bent down to kiss her now warm lips. But Lyona was not the same. She neither recognized Jael nor felt any love for him at all. She scurried from the rocks and disappeared into the sea. When Lyona had arisen, the old witch who had killed her couldn't believe her eyes. She had been hiding amongst the trees to watch Jael as his mother had requested. She hurried to Jael's mother to tell her what had happened. The mother, now besought with anguish as she realized that Jael would never return, took her own life. Jael eventually wandered home after Lyona disappeared to find his mother also passed. He held her and wept at what had happened. As he rocked her, her eyes also opened and her heart started to beat again. You see, Purim had lied to Jael when he said that his power would only work once. Purim thought that if Jael believed he could not raise the dead, he would not try. However, as Lyona had arisen, so did his mother. Her body was animated, but her soul had already passed. And so it came to be that the two women who Jael loved the most forgot him, lived unnatural lives of evil for the rest of his days. His mother terrorized villages and Lyona scoured the sea. After the High Council heard about what Jael had done, and what Purim had helped him to do, they agreed to forbid any magical dealings with necromancy and death. Wow, poor Jael. I couldn't help but to put my hand over my heart. What happened to him? Did he ever marry? Unfortunately, no. The genie took off his glasses and waved them into oblivion once more. Jael lived a very long life, but did not marry. After learning what reckless magic can do, he started this. The genie put his hand on the Book of Truths. He wrote the very first entry in the Book of Truths and made sure that the council added to it every major event of magical wisdom. Smart man, I said. Well, he learned to be. The genie chuckled. Now, are you ready for Rule 2?